There are many accounts in Norse history of how we treated the dead, and one of the most haunting accounts was from the traveller and writer Ahmad ibn Fadlan, who travelled to Scandinavia and was visiting the Rus Vikings. It was a sad day, that day when he sat in a tent. The men were travelling from far and wide. They was going to some place in the distance, maybe to fight or maybe to trade. On that we will never know. The men and the warriors sat round in the large tent. They passed around a bowl of hot water, and each man in turn washed his face, washed his hands, wiped out his ears, blew the nose into the water, and the bowl kept on passing around. I'm sure today, if we was sharing somebody else's snotty, sweaty, bloody water, it would not be a nice thing. But the Norse and the Rus Vikings had a different perspective on cleanliness. To them, it was a ritual to pass around the bowl, and if you were the highest rank, the chieftain, you had the bowl first, and the lowest of the men had the bowl last. But it was a sad day for these warriors, these Rus Vikings, for their chieftain had died, and it was time for him to be dealt with. They found a lot of wood and chopped it down with their axes. They made a pyre, a good few metres high, and they dressed and washed their chief. They put him in the finest clothing they could find. It was even said they had silk on his clothing, a rare thing for any Norse warrior to have. They covered his hands with rings, silver necklaces, a Thor's hammer, so he could travel to the afterlife with it and to Valhalla. For the chieftain, at this point in his life, was an old and wise man when he died. He had travelled the known world, he had fought in battles, he had raided, he had traded, he had married, and he had a grand life, the finest of foods, the finest of drink. And I'm sure you agree, any chieftain like that, then Odin would be looking down at him and wanting him to go to the hall of Valhalla. By Ahmad ibn Fadlan, he writes about this. But is it true? For that is another story. And so they made the pyre, they got brush and kindling, and they laid their chief out. But he had a young wife, and she wanted to go to Valhalla with him, and not to hell. So she climbed on top of the pyre to be burnt alive with the chieftain. I'm sure you agree, that is a horrible, haunting death. But this shows the devotion that she had for her husband and the chieftain, a wise and battered warrior. The fire rose. At first it was sparks from flint and steel, and men had sticks with fire on, and they all took their turn to place a stick of fire at the bottom of the pyre. The flames started to rise, the wood started to burn, and the chieftain's body, with his sword and an axe and a shield and all the silver and gold they could muster, went with him to Valhalla. The young woman, his young wife, did not even scream once in the pure agony of being burnt alive. That is devotion. That takes courage, and shows that not only the Norse men were courageous, but their women were too. And we love these stories, and often we don't mention such wonderful stories on the channel. Myself, I would like to be buried in a ship burial with all my weapons and all my worldly goods, and a mound erected above it, so that I may be remembered, and that will be known as Bragi's Mound. and may the undead haunt it, and may the Draugr and the Uppleganga, the above workers, the walkers of the dead, that rise at night from their ghostly graves, guard the mound where I may be buried. And if you come to dig up my wealth, you shall be cursed, for that is often the way when it comes to being buried. These are the haunting tales of the Norse. These are the tales that will go down in time, 1,000 years old, and will continue to be another 1,000 years old. Because these tales will never, never die. And that is the word fame of this chieftain. He has no name. We do not know his name, for I do not know it. I do not know if Idna Fadlan wrote the name down. And whether his stories are true, we're yet to find out. But I like to think that they are based on some truth. And we know that many a pagan king, that many a pagan prince was buried and sacrificed in the same way when they died. For if you died an honourable death on the battlefield, with cuts and scars from knives and swords and spears, you shall be remembered. You shall either be cremated, a ship burial for the elite warriors, those with the coin, those with the reputation to be treated so, or you may just be buried in a shallow grave with little but a axe and a shield and a spear. If you are new to the channel, then subscribe, for it is free to subscribe, and check out our latest videos, for we have told many, and there are many more tales to come on the channel.